So we purchased a pound of ground beef, and when we get it home, what I tend to do is deal with it so that it's ready to use. So if we decide to actually freeze it today, it'll be seasoned and you can use it for a burger or in a sauce of some kind, on spaghetti, and you don't have to worry about defrosting it, seasoning it, and then just going through all of the process that you can do ahead of time, which is now. So this is a pound of Angus beef. We've tried lots of different kinds of cuts, lots of different kinds of beef itself, but I found that Angus beef is a good all-round flavour and a good all-round fat consistency. So we also found that if there's too much fat in the beef, not only can you feel it quite heavily on your hands when you've actually put your spices in, but when you cook it, the oil or the fat becomes emulsified and creates oil pools, either on top of the sauce or actually around the beef itself when it's gone into the pan, which it just doesn't, it's not for any purpose. You don't need that much fat in your ground beef. It's different when you have a cut of beef or a cut of pork. Then you have a nice layer of fat on top of that actual cut, and maybe you're going to roast it or pan fry it, because that fat will break down and coat the meat, keeping it moist, and add flavour to the meat. So ground beef is different in that you don't need all that fat in the actual cut. So I've just put this pound of lovely Angus beef into my bowl, and around about a teaspoon of salt. The same again for chipotle. I use chipotle a lot in sort of just general seasoning, and it's not a lot for a pound. It will just bring the flavour out. And I know that we're going to be using this for burgers, so if you don't like chipotle, you don't like any real spices, you don't have to put that in. So I'm just showing you that, you know, we're sprinkling this on top. And I'm also going to add some black pepper. So I buy these grinders, which are really great if you haven't got a pepper mill. And I can see how much pepper I'm grinding into my little ramekin. So give that a tap. Just keep going until you've got around about a teaspoon. So for us, about a teaspoon for each seasoning into the pound of beef is pretty good. Whoops. For our flavours, and then it goes. And that just goes on top again. Now, I prefer to get my seasonings in at room temperature so that the fat, the meat, it's all at its natural balanced state. If you do things that have been refrigerated, there's nothing wrong with it, but you won't drive the flavours into the meat quite so direct and successfully. So my seasonings went on top, and all I'm doing is just quite literally kneading it into the actual meat, and I can feel the black pepper, and it's just going in there nicely, and just make sure that it's evenly distributed. And the other thing I find about doing stuff at room temperature is that it's just more easily manipulated. So you can see that that meat isn't really sticking to me. I'm giving it a nice good squeeze and knead, and you know, it's quite loose, and I can feel that obviously there is some fat in it, but it's not really heavily coating my fingers. So I'm just going to break off what I think is around about a quarter. I think that's probably just a little bit too much, so that I know I've got quarter-pound patties at the ready, and I can look in there and I can see some of the seasoning. And like I said earlier, I know I'm going to be using these for burgers, so don't worry, you know, if if one's slightly bigger than the other or anything like that, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just shaping that in the palm of my hand and just laying it gently one on top of the other. And then there's the last piece being broken into two, giving it a bit of a turn in the hand. And if that's too much meat for your patty, then that's fine. You can just use less. Maybe get 6 burgers from a pound. But there you go, that is a £1/4 burger. Now a pound of Angus beef will set you back around about $4, depending on the cut. This is actually the cheapest cut, so that, I know that came to about $4. So you think about the level of the quality of that meat, being Angus beef. We've got 4 burgers for $4, add a piece of cheese, some lettuce and some buns for 4 people. I'm pretty sure we can come in under $10. I know we can. So I'm just going to rinse my hands. I've got my 4 bags ready, so to show you how easy it is just to pop them in so they're prepped and ready to actually go into the freezer. Need some kitchen towel. Okay. I'm just doing this because it's easier to open bags with dry hands than it is with wet or slightly fatty hands. So I'll just get my bags open. So you might think, oh, I could put 2 of those burgers in that bag. Yep, if you want to, that's not a problem. The reason why I only put 1 in is because sometimes like Gary might want a snack, and I'm just like, well, I'm not hungry, and so I can just defrost 1 burger at a time, and it keeps the others fresh and ready. So that's just because that's the way I run the house. So I give my burger a bit of a squish when it's in there, and when it comes to actually defrosting them and putting them either in the pan or under the grill, then I'll reform them again. Because there are 2 ways that I can put cheese on my cheeseburger. And one of the ways is to cut the cheese up into little pieces and fold it and press it into the ground beef. And with that said, you would then have to make your patties again. So my little Ziplocs, very handy. There's no air in there to speak of. I just give that a press and a squish, and we're set. We have 4 patties ready to be frozen. With the big advantage of knowing exactly what's in my burger, and that is really important to me. So in the freezer they go.